3, 2, 1,
Jingle! Happy time has just begun. Brother, sister, smart, dumb, fun. Yeah!
No, we got new music and brothers. What do you think? I know it reminds me of like something from the 80s. In the 80s, it drove to a show and you're like, new 80s person, yeah! I know. Pretty amazing. And I can't hear you.
I can't hear you either because the music's too loud.
Okay, well I better turn the music down. It's amazing. Oh yeah. Okay, good. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was like, I can't hear you very much, other than to say that music was. It reminded me of all my favorite sitcoms in the 80s.
That's the whole point, Ann. It's got this super 80s vibe to it, and
Yes.
you know how in the 80s, like the intro music to your show was a big deal.
It was.
It was a really big deal. So.
Mm-hmm. I was like, oh wow, is the whole family going to be on the lawn waving to me? And the dog,
yes,
look, the dog caught the ball.
And the dog does something funny, and everybody's like, you dog, you. That's amazing. All right, I gotta take our brand off the back there. Boom. So yeah, here we are. It is Sunday. It is another week in the books. The second weekend of December is nearly behind us. And we're in sort of those December doldrums right now where like people are like, it's not Christmas yet. And people are like, ugh, it's not Christmas yet. And you know, that sort of thing. And that's kind of where we are right now. So you know, fun.
It is Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. That is exciting. Yeah, that was it was so funny because in Sturgis, Michigan, growing up, Hanukkah was not really a thing that people even talked about or acknowledged in any way, shape, or form. So there was only one holiday, and that holiday was Christmas.
It was Christmas. And then if you were Amish, there was also the, what was it, Little Christmas, the Epiphany, which was, I think, January 6th.
I think it's January 6th. Yep.
Yeah,
so,
that was
which is when the wise men finally showed up.
Exactly. You know what? It should have been wise women because they would have cleaned the stable, helped Mary deliver the baby, been there on time.
That's an excellent point. And they would have brought something practical, like maybe some, you know, some food or little swaddling diapers. Instead they brought myrrh.
Yeah.
What the fuck is myrrh? Sorry. Okay. Anyway, sorry. My bad. Anyway, I should probably explain all this. Anyway, we have a guest with us today, Heather Reeves. Heather Reeves is having technical difficulties, so she will be with us as soon as she possibly can. But in the meantime, we're going to go through and do our business. And if we need to, we'll talk about other dumb, fun stuff because apparently, Anne, you and I have a plethora of dumb and fun stuff to talk about. So should we get to it?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm going to add that to the stage. Look, there it is. Yes, today, you guys, we will be featuring the great and powerful Heather Reeves, who is having some technical difficulties because, you know, whenever you have like a computer that's not an Apple, it updates at just the wrong time. So,
just in the
anyway,
nick of
Heather's
time.
Just in the nick of time. So Heather's computer is currently updating as we speak. So she should be ready for the show sometime tomorrow about 8 p.m. So yeah. Anyway, all right. So for those of you that are our regular listeners, welcome back. If you are a new listener, welcome. And if you are a new listener, we try to do the new listener synopsis every day. We are Ann and Janice brothers. We're the brothers, sisters. Get it? Because both of our last names are brothers, and we're sisters. See,
we're sisters.
We didn't even do that. Just fate did that for us. So we are in our 50s, which means we know how escrow works. So there.
I'm not positive how escrow works, but I do have money in escrow. So I guess, you know,
good.
There you go.
Well, theoretically, your escrow account is the money that you're. Oh, wait a second. There's Heather. She made it. I'm going to bring her in. Hopefully we can hear her.
Okay. I am so sorry.
Don't be sorry. You're live. Welcome aboard. Heather Reeves has made it. Her computer has finally stopped updating because that's the way. Heather, isn't that always the way it is that your computer updates exactly when you don't want it to update?
every single
So-
time, and I usually try to make sure I check my equipment ahead of time, and today was a little crazy, so it didn't happen.
Well, we are super jazzed to have you. We're going to take right now. We're kind of taking everybody through our fun synopsis so that people know who we are or what we have to. We were just talking about the fact that Ann and I are in our 50s, and therefore we know how escrow works, or at least I do. So, because that's one of those things. It's one of those words that you don't really get until you get older. You're like, oh yeah, escrow account, which pays for my
Escrow
property
account.
taxes and my
I was
homeowner's
gonna say,
insurance. That sort of thing.
my homeowners insurance and property taxes. It's the money that gets squirreled away so I don't accidentally spend it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And you can either do yes, and you can either do that yourself or you can let your bank do it. And I let my bank do it because then I can be like, dude, it's their fault. It's not my fault.
Exactly. Don't contact me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's correct. Let's see what else about us. We talk about smart stuff, dumb stuff, or fun stuff on a weekly basis. Sometimes they're separate. Most of the time they're together. For those of you that don't know about the show, none of us are cool or hip. We're not sexy. We know we are not cool because when we went to Cindy's top bar in Chicago, which is just sick with cool people, we did not look like them at all. No. Anna's closer to being cool than me, but that's okay. Let's see. We're not sexy. See number 5 on this list. We are not a murder podcast, and we're not a celebrity podcast. At least not yet, because that's kind of a thing now. Celebrities all have their own podcast and they talk about stuff. Well, we're not that. We're not a celebrity podcast. We've been told that we are good to listen to while you are quilting. So quilt away, Abby Dunning. We are here to fill your quilting podcast needs. Super special. You can find us at our
5.
again. See number 5 for not being cool, Abby. Not to say that quilting isn't cool. It is.
Oh no,
because I can't quilt.
It's totally bitching.
It's completely bitching. So we're
Oh,
glad that
Abby.
we can
Sorry, Jenny, I have to interrupt you. Abby, do you have a featherweight? Let us know because I want to talk to you about
that's
that.
right.
Yeah, because I know a bunch of quilters that have featherweights, and it's like this cult thing. So you don't have to answer now, but eventually, do you have a featherweight? All right, Jenny, you can continue.
Okay, for those of you that don't know what a featherweight is, I don't either. I kind of do, but not really.
It's okay. We'll just find out later.
Okay. Anyway, featherweight. Again, you can find us on our new website, Spotify, YouTube, the Facebook, or Instagram. Again, this podcast is not rated G, PG, or PG-13. Not that we talk about a lot of like super explicit or gross stuff, but sometimes we drop an F-bomb. I've already done that once today. And sometimes we talk about naughty things. Anyway, if you join us, like us on Spotify, hit the little bell, follow us. Joe says I have to get better at shameless self-promotion. I guess. So
Okay.
I'll do the best I can.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So,
okay.
But that's not my thing. All right, here's some random stuff from last week. So apparently, Anne, you and I struck a nerve with our off-the-shoulder sweatshirts and our commentary on the fashion trend. Apparently, we nailed this.
Well, you know what? Because secretly we are super cool. We may not be cool ourselves, but we know what is cool.
That's true because I look at stuff and it helps that I work with teenagers who will always tell me what's cool. Now I was corrected on something. I was calling the pants that you wear with the super sexy sweatshirt look. I was calling them stretchy pants, and according to I was told by Ann Burnett, quote, they don't call them stretch pants. They only wear Lululemon and they call them by name. That came from Ann Burnett. Who is a teen expert because she has teens and she knows these things because her teens tell her that. So Ann Burnett, you are now our official teen expert, and we will mine you for information about the latest in teen fashion and other teen trends. So there you go.
Hold on here. How did you say the name of that brand?
Lululemon.
Is that how it's said?
Lululemon. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Lululemon. My bad.
I don't know. I thought maybe I've been saying it wrong.
No, it's Lululemon.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that just shows you what I know about anything.
Yeah,
so,
and
which is not
like
much.
really expensive. So I think most of them are just really stretchy pants, but everybody just calls them Lululemon. I was like, and sometimes I see like the little insignia. I'm like, oh, somebody spent a lot of money on black stretchy pants.
Yeah. Yeah.
No judgment if they're super comfortable. I myself just don't find stretchy and tight clothing something that I want to see myself in, and I'm pretty
No?
sure nobody really wants to see me in that either. So
Are
I'm
are
just
you
gonna go
sure
with
about
that.
that?
Yeah, yes, I am sure. I know for sure I don't want to see me in that, so we're just gonna go with that.
I don't want to get an infected belly button because the waistband is like too much pressure.
Mm. So what, Heather? Are you saying you want to see me in a pair of stretch pants? Come on, girl. Nobody wants to see that.
I was just trying to mine you for information there.
All right. So we have to talk about our dumb stuff, smart stuff, or fun stuff for this week. So Anne, we're gonna start with you. Hit it.
So I had both. I had two things, and I asked Jenny about them. And she's like, "Do them both." I'm like, "Okay." So my first one is my smart thing, and that's about the acorn weevils that I've discovered an oak tree on my walking route that had some really huge had been their acorns had been infected with a weevil, and so I took pictures of it, and then I have a little teeny picture of a weevil. It just was like, "Oh, hey, what's up with that oak tree? And what are those big things on it?" I was like, "Oh my God, this must be some sort of parasite." So I looked it up. There you go, acorn weevils. And then my
Yeah.
dumb thing was my pops aloxit.
Axolotl. What's the pop axolotl I got you last year?
So this is my dumb thing. Jenny and I have I call it her treasure box, and Jenny and that is not a euphemism. And Jenny gave me a fuck it bucket, not a euphemism. And we have like little wrapped presents in it. So whenever we're having a bad day, we can just like unwrap one of the presents that one of us got for each other. And it's usually something dumb and fun. And this is what I unwrapped this week.
That's correct. It is an axolotl that you put a ball in its mouth and then squeeze it, and then it pops the ball at you. That's right. It's a pop ball axolotl. Because why wouldn't I? Yeah. Because
why
why
wouldn't
shouldn't
you?
that exist in the world?
Exactly. So
That's
that
right.
was me. That was me this week.
Okay, I have a question for you, Anne, and it's the smart thing. So the acorn weevil, now is that an invasive species? And what's that mean for acorns and oak trees and the like?
It's not an invasive species. It's something that happens to acorns. Sometimes they get like you see the big puffy ball. Sometimes there's just a little hole in the acorn. It depends on the weevil. They're like I said, they're not necessarily that if that happens, that acorn isn't viable as a seed anymore, but it can still be eaten by critters. You can still eat them. They're not poisonous. You know, if you like are one of those people that collects acorns to grind into flour, you know what they taste like? They taste like acorns because that's what they eat. So
Okay.
it's just it just doesn't make it a viable seed. So it's not a huge deal. And usually, like this was a mast year for acorn, so that means that you probably saw a bunch of them. If you walked anywhere where there was an oak tree, you probably saw acorns, and that doesn't happen every year. You get mast years where it seems like every oak tree produces acorns that year. And so there was a bunch of them this year. So you'll have like an oak tree might make 1,000,000 acorns in a year, and maybe 5-10% of them will get some sort of parasite in them, which that's 5 or 10% that can't make oak trees. But honestly, most oak trees that make acorns, they'll do it for years and years and decades. Maybe one of them will eventually become an viable adult tree. So it's like
Interesting.
really, really low number. So, but all the things that like to eat acorns, squirrels, mice, deer, anything that likes to eat acorns, this will be a great year. Rabbits, they'll all have a banner year next year. We'll see a bunch of those little critters next year because they all had plenty to eat. And then next year they won't make any acorns, and then it'll crash back down. And circle of life, blah blah blah, up down, up down. There you go.
Ecosystems, blah blah blah. Yep.
Blah,
Awesome.
blah, blah. Exactly.
Awesome.
Smart stuff.
Well, from
Smart stuff.
smart stuff, yes. Hey, so Heather, would you like something that you would like to share that is smart, dumb, or fun?
Ooh. You put me on the spot.
I did.
Give me a second and I
Oh,
might be able to come up with something.
Not a problem, because I'm going to go right into my dumb thing. Anne has shown herself to be the smart one of this group. Well, so far. I chose the dumb thing because we did a show on Costco last week, and it just so happened that I was looking at trashy Yahoo News, and they were talking about the fact that there's a Reddit thread going on right now about the new and controversial shopping carts that are on their way to Costco. They are bigger, Duh. They're deeper, and that's part of the controversy, is that they're deep enough now where that if you are old and or pregnant, that you're going to have trouble getting your stuff in and out of your cart. On the other hand, the reason that they're less controversial is that they have a larger area to put your kids. In reality, that means there's more space for you, and they have flattened out that front part where you would normally put a kid, so that now you have a place to put a nice flat area to put your hot dog and your Costco soda in there. However, they still have not provided a cup holder in the Costco cart, and all I have to say is, "Really, Costco? Really? That's half the fun is you go there, you get your hot dog, you get your Coke, and then you can walk around eating your hot dog and your drink, and then you've got a drink for when it's sample time." Is that
Exactly.
asking too much?
It's America. It should
No.
not be asking too much.
I totally agree. So that's my dumb thing, is the new and controversial too deep for old people, too deep for pregnant people carts that have a nice flat child area where you can carry your hot dog. And I have a picture here of the cart with the hot dog and the soda sitting nicely in it, but a cup holder would be nice, Costco. So if you're watching this podcast, Costco, and you're probably not, but if you were, or if you were listening, you would know that the public wants a cup holder. If Target can have a cup holder, if King Soopers in Denver can have a cup holder,
If
Costco
Meyer
can have a cup holder.
can have cup
Meijer
holder.
holder. Yeah, they do. And they
Mhm.
don't, not every Meijer has a beverage thing either.
Right. Because they just
Yeah.
know you're going to bring in a beverage.
Totally.
The one close to my house never has a working pop machine, so
Oh, yeah.
It's
That's what
the ice
happens when
cream
you let
machine
the
of the
public
grocery world.
play with the
Yeah.
pop machine. It's like, we can't have anything nice. We're just going to break it.
That is a true statement. All right. So Heather, smart, dumb, fun, anything?
I am obsessed right now with the new reading app that I downloaded called Storygraph. I don't know if that's dumb, smart, or what, but it's definitely been fun because unlike Goodreads, it gives you all of your data in graphs. And so it color codes them and breaks out your different reading times and genres and all sorts of stuff. So I'm a little bit obsessed with that right now.
There you go.
Okay, say the
Anything with
name of that
graphs,
again.
got to be smart.
Yeah, I love graphs. I'm with you. I like everything displayed graphically. All right. So what's that name of that again?
Storygraphs.
Storygraphs. Got it. All right. If you're listening, Storygraphs, download it now. All right.
Go, rush.
Rush right this minute. So Heather, since we have you here, I suppose we should actually talk to you about why we wanted to talk to you. So here we are. We have super special guest, Heather Reeves, who is a mom, a wife, a business owner, a podcaster, and an all-around Renaissance woman who reads and then looks at her data about what she's read and etc. So that's a pretty good testament to who we have on. So Heather, I'm gonna read through some of your creds here. You are the owner of Wolverine Defense Academy, which is at 8139 Portage Road in Portage, Michigan. It used to be. What was the name of that? Because it's tactical. Wait, I can't think of the name of it.
Yes, Tactical Advantage Guns is our gun store arm, and then Wolverine Defense Academy. We're slowly consolidating everything. It's been a long, long journey, but we spent the last 2 years really soul searching about the name because I do co-own it with my husband. And so we just did some soul searching and settled on Wolverine. We'll talk about that when we get to my spirit animal.
Sweet. All right. So Wolverine Defense Academy, you guys offer a variety of classes, including firearms, and that's foundational, concealed, combative, advanced concealed. You also offer self-defense classes, and those are just like physical self-defense classes. Is that correct?
Yes, we have started rolling more pepper spray into that just because of what we're finding as far as people practicing and making sure, because physical self-defense really requires a longer term commitment, but we do still offer those, and we've just started rolling in more of the pepper spray side of it because it's a little bit more user friendly, as it were. So it's easier to teach somebody in a couple hours how to use pepper spray effectively than it is to teach them how to kick, punch, and do all of those things effectively in a couple hours.
Yeah, and there's a certain level of commitment that you have to have if you're going to gouge somebody's eyes if they're coming after you. I get that. And then you also do some medical with CPR and first aid, which I think is fantastic. And then you are also a content podcast creator. Your podcast is Everyday Carry Chicks. Remind me who you do that podcast with again.
That's with one of my female instructors and really close friends, Cass Crago.
Awesome. All right. All right. So I have a huge amount of credentials that you sent me. You are a woman that knows your stuff. So you have certifications from the NRA, from the United States Concealed Carry Association. You have certifications from RAD, which is Rape Aggression Defense. You're a range master. You're active in self protection. You have the Complete Combatant. Tell me about the Complete Combatant?
The Complete Combatant is an organization that's owned by a husband-wife combo, Brian and Shelley Hill. They're out of Georgia, and they really do what Brent and I do, but on a little bit bigger scale, if you will. And they've designed some of their own course content and material and some really interesting ways of looking at the world. And Brian is one of my biggest mentors, and I absolutely adore him. He has a way of looking at a group of 20 people and very quickly figuring out who he has in the room and how he's going to reach each person who's sitting in the room. So they're phenomenal people. The image-based decisional drills class is one of my favorites to teach because we use images to run people through scenarios where they have to make rapid decisions as if they were in real life. And it's amazing what happens, even though it's an image and there's no live action, as it were. People freeze, people break down, people have these moments where they're just like, I don't know what I would do. And we have to work through that. And it's the beauty of the situation.
Which makes sense because the stakes are incredibly high when you're dealing with those situations, for sure. For sure. All right. So a couple more certifications: Defense Training International, A Girl and a Gun. Tell me about A Girl and a Gun.
A Girl and a Gun is a national women's organization. It was founded by Robin Sandoval and Juliana Crowder, and Robin is now in charge of that. We have, oh man, I think we're up to over 115 chapters nationwide, and we have chapters in every single state in the country and Guam. So we are very, very prevalent, if you will, in the women's training world. And it's a great organization to belong to because it's not just about self-defense. It's about bringing women together and uniting them as far as shooting goes. There's no political slant to it other than wanting women to get involved in shooting.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have you on, because one of the things that we would like to, a lot of the questions that we have I would say, are very female centric in the sense that the shooting world feels like a very male dominated world. And I'd love to, to really, and those are some of the questions that we're going to ask in a minute about getting that female perspective about the world of shooting. So the last thing you have on your list here is that you have a master's degree in curriculum. I had to include that because, the whole teaching thing.
And I think it's important because it really does bring people around to realize, one, I'm human, and two, that I do have a different perspective than a lot of instructors who are out there, because I actually do care about how content is created and delivered. So
Sure. All right. So part of the reason that we wanted to have you on is that now, and you can jump in here. You had talked about maybe wanting to buy a firearm. I'm actually a firearm owner myself, who is looking for, I would say, more training. I mean, I've gone through concealed carry training, but really haven't done much beyond that, and kind of looking for ideas and so forth. So, Anne, why don't you jump in, talk about that?
Oh, me wanting to buy a gun?
Yeah.
Well, I looked into it last winter. I guess it was last winter. I even took a class, and just, and it was interesting because I've been listening to your podcast, Heather. And,
thank you.
Oh no, it's been fascinating. And you talked about how you have women's classes, but and I never even thought about this as being a thing, but I had a women's class. There were 6 of us, but it was taught by a man. And I was like, oh, how? And you brought that up, and I was like, yeah, I didn't even think to question that, but that would have been better. So it was really interesting, and I got to fire a gun, which I'd never done before. The reason why I didn't go through this is because, life happens, and it was kind of a hectic year this year. So I kind of had to drop it. But once Jenny told me about you, it started making me think again about possibly buying a gun. But it's honestly, I'm very intimidated by the process. I don't even know where to start.
What part of the process intimidates you the most? The going through all of the federal side of it and purchasing the gun,
Yes.
or picking
I
out the
feel
gun that you want?
yes, all
Okay.
3 of those. And then just the whole idea that, it's so funny to think that I could buy a gun and not have any training. Like, I can just go in, fill out the information, put my money down, and somebody's gonna give me a gun, and I don't even have any training really. And, that's, I am the conundrum for me is knowing that I can't get more training until I have a gun, but I feel weird about buying a gun when I haven't had enough training. So that's where I am. So yes, the whole thing, everything.
Everything. Okay. Well, I'll try to kind of keep it brief and kind of work through that a little bit with you. And man, there's so much to unpack.
Well, why don't we start with Jenny's spirit animal question?
Okay.
Because our question, and then like
Yeah, 'cause
I was going to say, go ahead, Jenny.
No, I was just gonna say, I think as we go through and answer, Ann and I kind of developed a list of questions for you, and I think a lot of what you're gonna do for Ann, and anybody that might be listening to this, as you answer the questions, you're gonna be sort of putting Ann on the right path, and me on the right path as somebody that um, who wants to kind of get back on track in terms of
Yeah.
of shooting and where to go and what to do and follow up and that sort of thing. So we have, I think, 13 questions for you. And the first one is, what is your spirit animal and why?
This question stumped me. I'm not going to lie. Out of all the questions that you sent me, this one I found the most intimidating. And, I thought about a couple of different possibilities, but I think I'm going to stick, and it sounds a little bit cheesy, with the Wolverine. And yes, I know that's how we named our business, but more than that, we chose the Wolverine because the Wolverine is the Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse version of an animal. So he has the line about it, be nice until it's time to not be nice anymore. And that's really what the Wolverine symbolizes for us, is that we want people who are embarking on self-defense to live their life in the nicest way possible until there's a reason that you can't be nice anymore. In addition to that, that's how I live my life. It's one of those things where I am super kind, super generous as much as possible with my time, energy, resources, all the things. But I definitely have some lines in the sand that if you cross them, I'm not going to be very nice about it.
Excellent. I love the fact that you made a reference to Roadhouse, which happens to be my very favorite terrible movie. I pretty much have that movie memorized. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I've
Here we
only
go.
seen it one time. I was like, dang, this is terrible.
Don't talk
But I
bad about
still watched
Roadhouse.
the whole thing because I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop.
Exactly. And that reminds me, somebody said the other day that they don't necessarily love our podcast, but they can't stop listening to it. So maybe we are the Roadhouse of podcasts, Ann.
Maybe we are. Maybe we are.
You know what? I've been called worse things. Okay. All right.
Exactly.
All right. So, Heather, your first actual question that relates to this topic is, where and when did you get started as a shooter?
Well, that also has a couple different answers. So, my family owns 200 acres in northern Michigan. It's a centennial homestead farm. So, it has been in the family for over 100 years. As that goes, I grew up hunting on that property from a very young age. So, shooting rifles and shotguns. I got out of it for a while, and after I got my black belt in Taekwondo, I started realizing that while being able to kick, punch, hit, etc. was really great, that maybe I might need something more than that. So I looked into shooting pistols, and the rest is kind of history. I really haven't given it up since. So a little bit of a time lapse in there, but I got started from the time I was about 5 shooting rifles and shotguns with my family, and then pistols have really been like from 23 on.
I'm just, if you're wondering what I'm doing while you're answering, I'm just kind of synthesizing some of this information because this is going to end up on our website, and it's also going to end up on our Facebook page, just so people that may be interested in following up with some of the things that you're saying can do so. So hopefully that's okay with everybody.
Yeah.
But so if I look like I'm typing furiously, it's because I'm typing furiously. So then I would say that you had a pretty early start when it came
Mhm.
to being around firearms, and I would say
Yeah.
for Ann and I, we're just the opposite. You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
And that's pretty much
so
the norm, to be honest. I am kind of an anomaly in that way. Most of the people that I work with don't get started into firearms until well into their adulthood.
sure, for sure. Okay, question 3. If you are a beginner, such as my sister and I,
Mhm.
and you want to get started, what's a good process that would get you started?
I think taking a beginner handgun class or some sort of introduction to handguns where the firearms and ammunition are provided is a really great way to get started in this world. If you want to get started in rifles or shotguns, same kind of process stands. Find somebody either who is a certified instructor, which is what I would really encourage you to do, or if you have a close family friend or you know of a gun club in the area. Rifles and shotguns tend to be the type of thing where if you show up to a public shooting event that involves those things, there's going to be somebody there to help you out, but that can be really intimidating. That's why I said, if you seek out a professional instructor, they should be able to make it a little bit less intimidating for you, familiarize you with the tool, and really kind of guide you in the right direction without it being completely overwhelming. Because I think, Anne, what you expressed is entirely the norm. Like, there is nothing about what you said that strikes me as being odd, different, or unique. I don't know if that makes you feel better or not, but it's something that I definitely hear a lot in this world of like, I'm totally overwhelmed by this process and don't want to do
Mhm.
the wrong thing.
Right,
Um,
and that's kind of like I think the 6 women that I was in there with, it was it felt like and I don't want to say the instructor seemed like a perfectly nice man.
yeah.
It didn't it was a little intimidating, and I think I would have been more comfortable with a female instructor, and I didn't even think about that at the time. So I guess I think I just think shooting seems to be so male dominated. I just assumed that when I signed up for the class, I was probably going to have a male teacher. So
Yeah. And I think that is slowly changing, but it's definitely something that we see a lot of. And the podcast that Anne is referencing is our episode where we talked about women's training and how important it is sometimes to make sure that you vet your instructors, which can be really hard for a beginner to do
Mhm.
because you don't know what you're looking for.
Mhm.
And so we do have a couple episodes where we talk about red flags as far as how to choose an instructor and what things to look for. And the same is going to go for a gun store that you go to. Kind of vetting the employees is really important because there are some things that they can say that make the whole process really terrible. And there are some things that they can say and some questions they can ask that make it a little bit less intimidating. And the same goes for an instructor. The reason why I said make sure that guns and ammo are provided is because you have no idea, right? That would
Right.
be like me asking
Mhm.
for you to go shop for a car without ever having driven a car.
Right.
In driver's ed, the cars are provided, and we do that for a reason.
Exactly, and that's why I thought it was, and I kept, like, bringing that back to, like, driving. I'm like, "Well, if I was getting a driver's license, I would take a class first before I went out and bought a car."
Yeah, yeah,
And
and
it's a pretty
and,
extensive class.
and while it's not required,
Mhm.
it is something that we find that a lot of people who are new to firearms, who haven't grown up around them, don't have a lot of family history. There are a number of people who want to take a few classes before they purchase their handgun. And we encourage people to do that because, quite honestly, the first firearm I ever walked into a gun store and bought probably wasn't the best gun that I could have purchased if I had just had a little bit more knowledge. And so don't be afraid to take a few classes before you settle on a gun. We offer, we do rentals as part of our private lessons. We do rentals as part of our concealed handgun classes. The women's group that I run, A Girl and a Gun, we offer rentals and guns to borrow during those. Plus, all of the women that I shoot with, if you showed up, we would be like, here, try my gun, here, try my gun, here, try my gun. And we would just hand you ammo and the gun. And we'd be like, try it, because we want you to make sure that it's a commitment. While it's not a house, it's definitely not like $50 that you're going to plop down on the table and have a great gun. Right. And so we try to make sure that y'all don't make the same mistakes that we made, where we purchased like 3 or 4 guns before we found the one that we liked.
Very good. Very good.
Well said. Excellent.
All
right. So our next question is, and I think you kind of addressed this, what makes a training a good training?
Oh, man, there's a lot of different things I could say about this. I'm going to say, one, that it's level appropriate.
Okay.
It's also, so that's a little bit on you to select the right class, but I do find that a lot of women underestimate their abilities. So that's a double-edged sword. The other thing would be the instructor or the person signing you up for the class needs to be honest with you about where they think you would be best suited. But that requires them to ask some questions about your prior experience. They shouldn't just be making assumptions because you're female or because you're brand spanking new that you belong in a certain spot. It should be something that you have a back and forth discussion about. Like, is this a good fit for me or not? Should I be looking at this class or that class? And beyond that, good training meets you where you're at, explains things, provides a link between what you're familiar with and what is unfamiliar. I use a ton of driving analogies. Why? Because most of the adult learners who come to me are familiar with driving. And so I want to make sure that we're understanding what the analogy is, so that you can better absorb the information about the firearm instead of it being something completely foreign that we're trying to treat as though it has no analog to something else in the world.
Okay. Very good. It's interesting that you say that women often underestimate themselves. It made me think of, like, if a job, applying for a job, if a woman is only 30% qualified, she'll be like, oh no, I can't do that job. I'm not qualified. And a man will be like, hey, 30%, I'm totally qualified. I'm going to apply.
I may offend some of your listeners in saying this, but I stole this from another podcast that I listened to. But women should do everything as confidently as a middle-aged white man.
Jenny and I say that
all
the time.
Okay, perfect.
I was like,
I do.
You're a white man, do it this way.
In fact, I'm guessing our husbands are probably sick of hearing us say that, because we say it all the time.
Perfect.
Like, there they go on their middle-aged white guy rant again. So yeah, no, I totally get that. All right, that's a good one. Okay, so let me ask you this. So speaking of equipment, does Wolverine sell what we would call a shooter starter kit? And if not, what do you think would go in said starter kit? So let's say you've gone through the classes and you have purchased your firearm. You found a firearm you like. You've purchased it. What else should you get?
We don't sell it as a kit, but we have a checklist of items, because sometimes you might want one brand and we like another brand. And so we don't want to pigeonhole you into things, but we actually have a checklist that we give people when they come in and ask this question. It includes things like a cleaning kit, so you can clean your gun, because just like your car, here we go with the auto analogies, just like you got to give your car an oil change, you got to make sure that you maintain the equipment that you have. Typically, we recommend 3 to 5 magazines to start. If you're going with a semi-automatic, you would want probably some sort of load assist device to fill the magazines.
Ooh, that's huge.
That's huge, because it saves your thumbs at first. And when you're kind of fumbling through, how do I get that in there?
Yeah, it's unpleasant. Loading a cartridge is unpleasant. A magazine is unpleasant. And the little thingies that you buy are not unpleasant.
Nope. They make it more fun to go shoot.
They do.
We also
they do indeed.
We also recommend eye and ear protection that's comfortable for you and is going to work for you. We are fans of the electronic hearing pro. So these are either in ear, so it'll either go into your ear like an earplug would, or it's going to go over your ears more like headphones would. And you can turn them on, and what they do is they make everything at the same level of sound. So it's going to amplify voices. It's going to reduce hearing the gunshots, and you get to control how loud it is. And it means that you can have normal conversations at the range, but you don't damage your hearing. So they're really kind of nice. But something that's comfortable for you and effective, because your fingers aren't going to work while you're shooting. Empty cartridge casings are no longer acceptable as hearing pros. So you got to have something a little bit better. Eye protection, you're looking for something that wraps around. Even if you wear glasses, we do recommend either purchasing plastic side shields that slide on over the bows of your glasses, just to prevent brass from kicking in underneath of your lenses, or some sort of over your eyeglasses wraparound protection, because it's going to make it, again, a little bit more comfortable. Beyond that, a range bag is helpful, but this could be a bag you have at your house, something to kind of keep all of your stuff together. And then I do recommend, if your gun doesn't come in a plastic case, because some manufacturers put it in a really nice plastic case, others put it in a cardboard box. If it doesn't come in a nice plastic case, then I do recommend that you buy some sort of pistol pouch so that you don't have to plop your whole range bag up on the bench when you go to get your gun out.
Okay. Excellent.
I just typing that last thing.
Yeah. I think that covers the basics. There's a lot more that you can buy, but that's kind of the starting point.
Yes, when you can go
hog wild.
Class, and I was in their store afterwards. I mean, the store was huge, and I was like, now what do I do? After I get the gun, then what do I get? And I was with a friend and we were talking about it. I was like, oh, it'd be so nice if they had like a kit, because I'm a sucker for a kit. And like, oh, here's a sewing kit. Here's an embroidery kit. Here's a bead kit. Here's a gun kit, So just the checklist would be a big help, especially a checklist from somebody who knows what I need, because I don't know.
Yeah. And we built that checklist. It basically has like you need this right now to start. And then it has within the next little bit and down the road, you need to purchase. So we kind of broke it up into 3 parts, because quite honestly, if you purchase it all at once, it ends up being kind of cost prohibitive. And so we were like, if you need just the things to get started, here's the things. And then all the other stuff that you might want, here's that later on.
And I imagine as you continue to take classes, you'll start to decide what you need and don't need as you get further into the training.
Yep.
Okay. Makes complete sense. So, Anne, what I'm learning is that we should be at Wolverine. That's where we should be going.
I was going to say.
That's what I'm learning.
It's worth the drive.
Yes. For reals. All right. So, Heather, define a responsible gun owner.
Oh, I think this was the second most intimidating question on your list.
That's fair.
Because this one is very, very polarizing in the gun world. Not so much from a responsibility perspective. We pretty much all agree what makes somebody responsible, but there's kind of 2 ends of the spectrum, right? There are a group of people out there who think that everybody should own a gun. Everybody should have access to this because it is a right that we have written into our Constitution. So there's a group of people that are very much on that end of it. There shouldn't be any licensing. There shouldn't be any tests that you have to take. There shouldn't be any sort of stopgap there. Responsible gun owner, though, more than just a gun owner, somebody who's responsible with it is going to do their part to keep it out of the hands of the 3 C's. And I stole those from Kathy Jackson. Janice, all the best material is stolen from other people.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure Anne knows that too.
There wasn't a good idea I could not steal. And I expected people to steal mine. So,
So Kathy Jackson is a retired female firearms instructor from out in the Washington State area, I believe, somewhere on the West Coast. And she defines 3 C classifications of people that we have a responsibility to keep our guns out of the hands of. And that's children, I think we can all agree that children should not have unattended access to firearms. I'll qualify that here in just a second, though. The second classification are criminals, and we're not talking all criminals. We're not talking people who have parking tickets, but we're talking people who have felonies or violent misdemeanors where their firearms rights have been revoked by the feds because they are dangerous, is really what the thought is. And then the third classification would be the curious. 70% of people out there will go through your stuff. So your friends, when they come to your house, 70% of them will open your drawers in your bathroom. They will take a sneak peek in your medicine cabinet. They will snoop, right? So if we don't keep our firearms put away, locked up, or on our person, because I do carry at home. I don't take my gun off until the end of the night. That's the way that I choose to carry my firearm on a daily basis. But at night, I will lock it up. Or if it gets uncomfortable, I will lock it up. Yeah, I like that. I like that summary there. So, and I do that because, you know, in the Midwest, we have that whole thing when people come over to your home, we stick all the beds on the, or all the coats on the master bed or the guest room bed. And if we do that, then people are going into these private areas of our home. And if we're tucking our gun in our nightstand and we have one of those 70% who's like, ooh, what's in the nightstand drawer? And they don't know anything about firearms, they're likely to pick it up. And if they don't know anything about firearms, we're talking about a person who might be curious about firearms, but they don't really know anything about them. They will do the most things that I classify as ludicrous things with those firearms. And prior to owning a gun store, I really didn't have any idea what that meant. Since owning a gun store, I have found out that a lot of people who pick a gun up for the first time feel the driving need to turn it around and face them. Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
What's in here?
Because they do, and it's funny, but it's sad.
It's not. It's not
it's
funny.
It's like,
Wow.
but they don't know what they don't know, right?
Right.
The second most common thing they're going to do is they're going to pick it up, not knowing how to clear it, and they're going to press the trigger. And if you own a firearm for personal defense, whether in home or out of home, you should be keeping it loaded because that you need to be able to pick it up and use it. But if you have that curious friend who goes through your stuff, picks it up, presses the trigger, now they're going to discharge that firearm inside your home in whatever direction they choose to point it. Oof. So we have a huge responsibility to make sure that we take our friends who are curious about guns to the range, but that we don't leave our firearms accessible to them. The criminal side of it, we can ultimately, if a criminal wants something, they're going to find it, they're going to break into it, they're going to do the thing, but we want to make it as hard for them as possible. So install your safes according to the guidelines that are given by the manufacturer, because that's what allows them to work well. And then lock your guns up if they're not going to be on your person, because that solves all three of these actually. Mm-hmm. Children, I put the rider on there. I said, don't give them unattended access. I have a son who's 10. He knows. We removed the curiosity as young as we could. We took him to the range with us. We made sure that he was around us while we were shooting, but we also make sure that he doesn't have access to the firearms when we're not around. And what that means is that he can look at either myself or my husband and he can go, I want to go shoot. And he knows within 24 to 48 hours, we will take him to the range and we will do those shooting activities with him in a supervised manner. Ultimately, though, responsible gun owners, if they do those three things, they're doing 90% of the job. The rest of the 10% really depends on what their purpose of owning the firearm is. And there may be some additional responsibilities there, such as if they're going to conceal carry, they may need to learn the laws. They may need to learn other aspects of being able to draw the firearm safely, use it safely, etc. But most of the job are those things.
Very good. Well, I know you said that you started using a gun or a firearm when you were young, but it sounds like you were doing it well supervised.
So. Yes. Yep. And it removed that curiosity. I never once went to go figure out where my dad kept the guns because I knew that if I wanted to go shooting, all I had to do was ask.
Excellent.
That's interesting. You don't really ever really think about that idea that the curiosity thing, honestly, the children and the criminals, that makes perfect sense to me. But I've never considered the whole curiosity portion of that, either for kids or adults. I'm like, of course,
Right.
that makes perfect sense.
Some people open up my bedside drawer and got a surprise.
Uh-oh.
It'll make you rethink what you keep accessible to the
Exactly.
public.
No, I want you to know. You open that up, bring me some batteries next time. Damn. Oh, no. I'm not embarrassed. You should be embarrassed.
You should be embarrassed.
Exactly. Are you upset you don't have one? Here, I'll be a good, responsible owner for you. We'll go out and buy one together and you can find one you like. Stop playing with mine. So, anyway. Question 7, Jenny?
And brothers, ladies and gentlemen, and brothers.
This is a fantastic interview.
That's what we aim to please. So not only is this a fantastic interview, and you're going to get a tote bag out of this, Heather. It's like it's your dream come true.
Exactly.
So.
I got so excited. I'm not even gonna lie. You gave me those 3 options, and I was like, tote bag.
Tote bag. And you're like my sister. My sister loves her a good tote bag.
Yeah, it was like, is there a tote? Free tote bag? Yeah, I'll join.
Pretty sure that's why you have a Michigan Public Radio membership. You got a free tote bag. That's
I got
all
a free tote bag. Exactly. It was like I, joined the Yellowstone National Park membership. I'm like, tote bag.
Free tote bag. All right, so let's dig into this question. I like this question a lot. So what perceptions do you deal with? Oh, I typo. I said fun owner when I should have said gun owner. Let me fix that.
I own
all right,
fun too. I just want you to know I do own the fun.
Okay. You don't just bring the fun, you own the fun.
Yes.
All right, so what perceptions do you deal with as a gun owner?
Oh man. I'm going to go with this as it's written first, and then I'm going to put a twist on it.
Okay.
I have a lot of people who assume that I am hot-headed, that I am looking for an excuse to shoot somebody, that I like to kill Bambi, that, whatever bad, gun slant you can put on that, I have had to deal with it. First of all, we don't shoot Bambi. Bambi was a fawn. We shoot adult deer because they taste delicious.
And I am tired of them eating my beans. So,
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Or dodging them with my car.
Right. So, most hunters eat what they harvest. That's a huge misconception about hunting in particular. But most hunters do eat what they harvest, which is honestly really, I find to be responsible. I know where my meat comes from. I know approximately what it's eaten, and I know approximately what it's had access to. I don't know the last time that I went to a grocery store and could say the same thing. So there's something to be said for that. I get that it's not everybody's cup of tea. I understand that some people have a really hard time thinking about killing an animal, and I totally respect that. That's why not all gun owners hunt. But for hunters in particular, we're not terrible people. We've actually removed a lot of the natural predators out there in the wild. And so the deer population is actually out of control, but even other small game, squirrels, rabbits, etc. If the hunter is doing it responsibly and ethically, they're following the guidelines and they're not over harvesting the area that they're hunting, and they're using their kill in order to feed. Yes. So, hot-headed wise, people do kind of tend to think that gun owners are very, how do I want to say this? Very opinionated to the point where they are argumentative, or they are in people's face about the fact that since they own guns, they think you should own guns, or they think other people should back off because they don't understand what it's like. I am not that person. I am super chill. If you don't want to own a gun, don't own a gun. Can you guys hear that? Is it coming through? Is the fan?
It's coming through just fine.
Okay. The fan just turned on in here, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't overpowering me.
Oh, no. Nope. I can still hear you great.
Honestly, I'm not a Republican. That's the other thing I think that gets thrown around a lot, is that people assume that all gun owners are Republican, and they beat that drum, and that's not the case either. I don't identify as a Republican, and I'm not going to tell you what I do identify as, because quite honestly, it's none of your business because it doesn't matter. I want to be a gun owner, and I want anybody who wants to be a gun owner to be a gun owner. I don't care what your political affiliation is. And the one about looking to shoot people is all about the fact that since I conceal carry, people automatically assume that I am looking for an excuse to use my firearm in a self-defense situation, which again is not true. The reason why I carry my firearm in self-defense is hoping that I never have to use it. But if I need it to fulfill my mission of making it home to my family every night, I have it with me.
I think that's cool. That's fair.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think so too.
As a female firearms owner, so this is where I wanted to twist it a little bit. As a female firearms owner, I get a lot of people who just don't think that I know how to shoot. And so I love when I get to list off all of my credentials. We talked about this at the beginning being a male dominated field, and there is still a lot of skepticism as to whether or not females can perform to the same level as males. Here's the thing, your gun doesn't know what gender you are. It doesn't care. It has nothing to do with your musculature or your genetics or anything else. And it has to do with, do you understand the fundamentals? And for example, one of my female instructors shot our demo at our class yesterday, nailed it, did it, so much justice. And 3 of the guys standing on the line immediately went up to her and like took her more seriously. Whereas before they were kind of dismissive, because we do the demo a little bit into the shooting time, and they were a little bit dismissive of her. And after she shot the demo, they were all like, can you help me please? Because I need some help.
You know, it's so funny
Because
that
I'm
I
not
think,
fundamentally sound.
you know, it's like, it's not like you have to be tall or, you know, super muscular, or it's really, when you think about it, shooting's like one of the most,
Gender neutral.
yeah, I was going to say it's one of the more neutral sports events in that it doesn't matter. It's kind of like thinking, you know, it's like, it's not like you can't think if you're a woman. It's not like you can't shoot a gun. It's like, there's nothing there. There's really no barrier.
Yep. Yep. And
So
I've taken
that.
It's funny to me because I have taken top shot in 3 classes that I have taken now. I have won a major national match that was really awesome to win. And yet still I deal with people on the local level, because on the national level, I'm not really known, but I'm known in certain circles. Like, and I hate saying that, but it is true. And on the local level, I still deal with people showing up at class and they're like, you're teaching class today? And I'm like, I'm actually probably better qualified than 90% of the people in the area. And the other 10%, I've hired them as instructors. So
suck
yes,
it.
yes, I'm teaching.
yeah.
And you're welcome.
All right, so let's we're gonna build on that idea of perception. So what advice can you give to people who want to get started with shooting but are afraid to because of the perceptions of others?
Take a deep breath, find a friend to go with you. You're going to have one friend. You're going to have a friend who's not going to think that you're crazy for wanting to do this, and take them with you to a class. Because the hope would be that even if you end up keeping it a secret from your family or friends, that you will build new friends to go on that journey with you. You will meet somebody. That's one of the beautiful things about A Girl and a Gun, is that I have women from all walks of life, from all political affiliations, and they all come together centered around firearm ownership and wanting to be responsible and ethical with their firearms. And some of them have very plainly told me that they don't have any support at home, but they appreciate the support that they get within our group. So you've got to build yourself a family, and that may take you way outside of your comfort zone, which is where, like we were talking a little bit ago, you may have to find a female instructor. You may have to kind of think through, how are you choosing your instructor? But beyond that, it's about going ahead, taking a deep breath, vetting the people ahead of time so that you know you're going to be in a safe place, and finding that one friend that you can take with you who's not going to be like, you're crazy for wanting to own a gun.
I think that's great. I think that's great advice. You know, just
it's
you know.
interesting because I went and had dinner with some of my old friends about a week ago, and this came up. I you know we were I was talking about the podcast. I was talking about that you were going to be a guest with us, and everybody kind of looked at me strange because I was the only one in the group that owns a firearm, and it was just this really interesting. I'm like, huh, you know, and it's I just it was one of those where I'm like, oh yeah, I suppose that's probably the way it is and what I'm gonna deal with, and I think maybe that's part of the reason I never, after my husband, bought me a gun for my 50th birthday and have kind of shied away from
Yeah.
using it, and I never have been able to figure out why, and part of me is that I have not really wanted to deal with explaining myself when it comes to, "Why don't I do this more?" And part of it is that I did not we had this little range that we went to in, in Wisconsin, and I found myself kind of intimidated to go back there. And then
Yeah.
we really had not really pursued or looked for a place when we moved to Michigan. And so it's
Yeah.
interesting. I definitely that question was definitely for me because that's kind of how I feel. I
Yeah.
feel like perceptions have kept me from doing this more.
I think the best maybe the best advice there is actually to say don't be afraid to build a separate group of friends around shooting.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I can do that.
Mhm.
Right.
You're
So
a
what
friendly
do you have
person.
to say that again?
You're a friendly person.
I can
Very-
be. Yes. And I think you've actually covered number 9, that question of what do you have to deal with in the world of shooting that a man doesn't have to deal with.
I hate to say it, but it's no different. And you hit the nail on the head. Like anything else that we do, a lot of times there's just that skepticism, you know. So the other thing about this particular question is that typically speaking, firearms instructors come from 3 areas. They are either former or current military, they're former or current law enforcement, or they're competition shooters. I was none of those when I became an instructor. I was none of those when I took the deep dive into self-defense. And so when I list off my credentials, people are like, yeah, but where's the military experience? Where's the law enforcement? And I'm like, and I just come out and say it. I'm like, I'm just a big nerd. I really like nerding out about criminology and psychology and how all of this comes together. And so that's my background in self-defense, is that I'm curious about it and I have set out to learn as much as I can about it. Beyond that, the actual shooting piece is that we have better luck in our classes when the female instructors do the demos. When the female instructors do the demos, everybody's credibility increases. When the male instructors do the demos, there's still doubt left in the people's minds. Okay, but can the girls actually shoot?
Mm.
Wow.
And it's not everybody. It's not everybody.
Right.
But there's definitely a certain segment of the population that no matter how many credentials I have, no matter how many competitions I win, I am going to have to win them over by proving on the spot that I can do the thing.
Well then. All right.
Challenge accepted.
Exactly.
For real. For
Mhm.
real. That sounds about right. That sounds about what you would expect for sure. All right. Next question. What was your first gun? Why that gun?
So I don't remember my first rifle or shotgun. I don't.
Handgun.
What was your first pistol?
My
Yeah, your
first pistol was a Smith & Wesson M&P, which just stands for their military and police line, and it was a 9C, which is a 9mm compact.
Why that gun?
Because I
So say
shot
that one
it
more
like
time. It was the
so it's
ahead.
the Smith & Wesson M&P. So M ampersand P 9C.
Look at you using the right.
I know.
9 what?
9C. 9 Charlie.
9C. Oh, that's the 9 compact. That's right. Smith & Wesson 9mm. Blah blah. Okay, got it.
Why that gun? Because I shot somebody else's like 5 times and I was like, this is good enough.
See, that's what I don't want to end up with. It's like, oh, this seems nice. Is it
It was
pink?
good enough.
What's the sparkly one? Okay, I'll take
Yeah.
the sparkly one.
Don't-
See, that's what I don't want to do. That's my
Don't do it that
instinct.
way.
And I don't think I'm like, don't follow that instinct.
No, don't do it. No,
Because I
to
know
be
like they're like, ladies like this because it's shiny. And I was like, oh, well, this lady does, but I don't want
Shiny
that
silver.
to be my motivation.
and I did. Don't get me wrong. That gun. I was fantastic with that gun, and I love that gun, and I shot it a lot, and really did end up enjoying it. But I think I got lucky. I really think I got lucky.
Love it.
Cool. All right.
I'm gonna skip this 11th question. Do I want to skip? Should I skip? I'm looking at our time, and we are well over an hour right now.
Yeah, sorry.
So I think I will probably skip. No, not at all. This is awesome. I'm gonna skip this question. I'm just gonna jump right to the second to last question, which is looking for organizations that exist both locally and nationally to support women's shooters.
There's only a handful on the national level. The two primary ones that get the most airtime, if you will, are A Girl and a Gun, and then what used to be called the Well-Armed Women, which is now Armed Women of America. Both of them have a chapter model where you get together one or more times a month with the people in your chapter. You learn different skills, you hang out together. They do have a little bit different framework for how they accomplish that. I will speak to A Girl and a Gun because that's the one that I'm affiliated with. A Girl and a Gun places an emphasis on the camaraderie and the ability to get to know the people in your chapter, as well as gives the flexibility to the facilitators to not only just concentrate on self-defense aspects of shooting, but also competitive side and the sporting side in general. So we also encompass both pistol, rifle, and shotgun. And so I would encourage anybody, though, who's looking for kind of that new group of friends, like I told Janice, if you're looking for how do I step outside of my box here, to look into whether or not you have either of those chapters in your area. If you don't, there are a variety of ranges that host women's groups that may or may not be a good fit. Some of those women's groups that are hosted locally and are not affiliated with national chapters actually are run by men. That's the thing that I'm going to throw out there. That may or may not matter to you, but I think it's important to note. They do not always have a qualified female instructor leading them. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to meet a bunch of really great women there.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Very
Excellent.
cool.
All right.
Very cool. I'm going to make that bigger, and then I'm going to post that real quick. And excellent. And our last question, and this is one of Ann and I's favorite questions ever. If you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, what would you eat?
That I thought maybe that was a typo. I'm not going to lie when you said
No.
that to me.
No.
That's a real question.
It's a
Because for
real
Ann and I, the food is kind of a big deal. So
is.
there you go.
There you go.
Probably Jaeger schnitzel or currywurst, which are both German dishes. So
Wait,
like a
what?
breaded patty of either chicken or pork that has been fried up, and then the Jaegerwurst comes, or Jaeger schnitzel comes with like a tomato-based sauce on it. Currywurst is bratwurst that's chopped up, and it has a curry paste that, like a curry ketchup that gets poured over the top of it, and I could eat that stuff all day long.
You had me
Okay.
at fried.
I know, right?
Everything stopped for me after you said fried.
Fried. You
And
had me
honestly,
at-
I love
Both
like
sounds amazing.
worst.
Mhm.
Worst. I like things that are worsts because they're usually involve something that is sausagey, which I like.
Which
So-
I like too.
and I don't mind curry. Curry's good. So yes.
No, I like curry as well. I was
Uh,
like, both of those sound delicious, and I would eat
sound
those.
completely delicious.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's important because yes, everybody has something that they want to, somebody that they would eat all that with, but ultimately we always forget about the food. Like, well, who would you eat with? I'm like, but what would you eat?
right.
Don't forget.
Anyway,
the
sorry.
important things.
All right, that was our last official question. So, because like I said, we are running a little bit long on time. Heather, I can't even thank you enough. This has been
Oh.
just really great. I learned a ton today, and
Mhm.
honestly, we will be visiting Wolverine Defense
Mhm.
Academy because I can't think of a better place where I would want to go, not just as a gun owner, but as a woman who feels like that you're building something really cool there,
Mhm.
and I think you're building a really safe place for women when it comes to wanting to explore firearms, and I think you're doing an amazing that your podcast I think is a great introduction as
Thank
well
you.
as the things that you have to think about. Um, Things that it's a great entrance into this world that is not well known for many of us, and that's for
Mhm.
sure. So, yeah,
Yeah, no,
and again, I know you're incredibly busy, so the fact that you took time out of your life and away from your family and your kids in order or your kid in order to come over here and talk to us
Mhm.
is, it means a lot. So
Yeah.
so thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
And,
I
as you know,
can't tell
guests
you how much I appreciate this.
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's been a pleasure, seriously.
Mhm.
So guests on the Brother Sister Smart Dumb Fun, you get a bougie, swaggy gift, and you've chosen a tote bag. And I can't blame you because man, tote bags are both aesthetically pleasing and practical.
Form and function, Jenny Brothers. Form
That's what you
and
said.
function.
You
I
had
Like
love
me
it.
at
Form
tote
and
bag.
function.
exactly. Tote bag.
We had her at tote bag. She wasn't even going to do it until we said tote bag, and she's like,
Like,
"I'm there."
I'm there.
All right,
Awesome.
so quick sneak peek into next week. Next week we have two in a row, you guys, two in a row, super special guests. Next week we have the great and talented Annette May. And tell us about Annette May.
Annette is a friend of mine, and she is a cicerone, which is Latin for beer wizard. I don't know if that's true. I just
Shut
made it
up.
up.
Okay.
You know, like a sommelier.
A sommelier.
Sommelier. Yeah, that's for wine, like a super wine expert. Well, she's the same thing, only for beer. But I think Beer Wizard really, really gets the point across. She's also an
Agreed.
educator at Schoolcraft College in brewing and distilling technology, and she's the co-founder of Fermenta, and basically a kick-ass human being. So she's going to
She
be our
is.
guest next week. She's going to answer some questions for us. Jenny, you and I are going to try 3 different beers. She's going to tell us why they're good, and we'll hopefully understand that after we learn how to really appreciate it. So,
Can I
yeah,
come back
That's
next
awesome.
week?
of
Can I try
course,
the
Yes.
beers too?
Yes. You'll have to
naturally.
come over to my house. Come over to my house and have beer. No, and Annette is literally I think Annette is one of those people, she's super worldly, and I
Yeah,
just feel like she's so smart, and I love her.
yeah. Oh, and she's Australian, which I think gives her a lot of credibility. So,
Thank you
Yeah,
for having
but
me
if
on
you're
before her.
oh no, you were right. You're our most awesome guest so far. So,
I'm your only
Exactly.
guest.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, whatever.
yeah. Uh-huh.
No, so yes, that is so again, we have a big show next week. We had a humongous show this week. And again, you guys, if you are interested, you've just been talking to Heather Reeves. Heather Reeves, owner of the Wolverine Defense Academy, podcaster extraordinaire, with a Everyday Carry Chicks. And so again, you guys, we're going to post this information that Heather gave us on our website and on the Facebook page that we have. So if you're interested in knowing more, then you can always, ask Heather because she knows. You can go right over there to Wolverine Defense Academy in Portage, and she will hook you up with the things that you need to be a responsible firearm owner. So we're going to go ahead and take it out. Wait, I have to put on our amazing music. Wait, I have to
Oh
find it.
yeah.
Which one did I do? I think I did
Um,
the.
you did the '80s one where
Oh, I
we
did
were
the
all.
this one. I did the 80s. Can you hear that? Yeah, I know. It's pretty rocking. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. And I'm going to take everybody out so that you can see us. And thank you again, Heather Reeves, for helping us out. So, Heather, we're going to take you out of the studio, and then we're going to bring you back in for a quick goodbye. So don't hang up yet, okay?
Okay.
Right on.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Peace
Good night.
and